Hello and welcome to the Dynasty Kings podcast. I'm your host Jared.
And I'm Austin.
And we are talking today about week 2 of the NFL, our players that we're keeping an eye out on, and we're also going over some mistakes that we made last week. Some big ones that we definitely want to apologize for. And I'll start out by saying, Deion Jackson, you suck. You absolutely suck. How did you manage to get 79% of opportunity share in week 1 on the Colts from the Colts backfield, which happened to be 4th in the NFL? It was 4th highest in the NFL.
That's crazy.
Out of every NFL team. And that's only behind Josh Jacobs, Jamal Williams, and Alexander Madison. Like, he was still getting that much usage, and he still sucked. He was still absolutely terrible. And if you ever see this, I hate you, and you've embarrassed me on my own podcast.
All right, well, there you go.
And I'll never have you again.
So Deion Jackson, cut him.
Absolutely cut him.
Done.
I cut him in all my leagues. Goodbye. Bye, shitter.
Yeah. So I also want to apologize about DJ Moore. I don't feel quite as strong as like cutting him in every league, but like don't start him until further notice because he shit the bed.
Yeah.
Absolutely shit the bed. I thought that he would be doing a lot better with a more consistent quarterback. So I mean maybe this is an issue that's more so the Bears' offensive line than him himself or that matchup. But until further notice, I don't think we're starting DJ Moore. He did terribly. And then I also want to talk about Terry McLaurin, my boy, and the Commanders in general, because he did not do well either.
Yeah.
And I think till further notice, the Commanders cannot be trusted.
Yeah, no.
The Cardinals' defense is bad. Bad, and they barely got 20 points on them. So I'm not trusting any Commanders.
No, the Commanders are sus, dude. If you're struggling that hard against the Cardinals, like I'm off. Like Brian Robinson is the only one that actually had a pretty decent game.
Right.
But besides that, I'm out.
Yeah. And until further notice, because I mean, every defensive matchup they have coming up is going to be more difficult than the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So like why would we expect it to be better until, they show us signs that it can be better?
This was their cakewalk week and they absolutely embarrassed themselves.
Right. And at least they got the dub. They could walk out of here unlike the Bills. They didn't fall for the trap. But I mean, I still don't know where I stand with the Commanders, and I'm definitely not big on their offense until further notice.
Yeah, I'm out.
But with that said, we did get a couple of them right.
Yeah.
Who was the one that you got, Jerry, that we really liked?
I got Bijan right.
Yep.
Algier still took a lot of the carries. Still took a pretty big workload, but I mean, Bijan looked really good.
Yes.
That touchdown was electric. So that was just a preview of what we're about to see for his career.
Yeah.
And then I also got another one correct. Tony Pollard.
Yep.
I got Tony Pollard correct too. The Cowboys absolutely embarrassed the Giants. If you're a Giants fan and you're watching this, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and skip that part.
Yeah, be better. Tony Pollard, he ended up 2 touchdowns, if I remember correctly. So,
yeah.
I mean, 3 touchdowns between 2 combined players. If you have those guys on your team and you listen to Jared and started them, probably looking pretty good. And then on my side, I had Mike Evans, who ended up scoring a touchdown and had an okay game. Didn't really blow the doors off of anything, but he's known for that kind of consistent production. I figured he would do that against the Vikings. And then we also had Stephon Diggs, who ended up with, I think, 10 receptions and a touchdown as well. So I think starting either of those 2 guys made a lot of sense, and I'd do it again this week as well.
Yeah, I mean, both of them definitely ate. Baker Mayfield looked a lot better than we thought. So I'll be talking about him in a little bit. But for now, let's go ahead and get to our Thursday night game.
Yep.
This week in week 2, we are seeing the Vikings versus the Eagles. And the player that I'm expecting to have a pretty good game is Jordan Addison, the rookie. And the rookie from Pittsburgh, and where'd he go? South Carolina?
USC, if I remember correctly, right?
USC?
Yeah,
same
transferred
thing.
to USC.
Yeah, same thing.
Right, SC in there.
Yeah, SC. I was originally going to say A.J. Brown again, like I said last week, but he didn't look too great against the Patriots. The Patriots have a good defense. He didn't look like terrible, but the Bucs offense diced up this Vikings defense last week, which, the Eagles should decimate them.
Yeah,
and
I think the Vikings defense is definitely in the lower tier. It's not quite the worst I've seen, but it's definitely in that lower end.
Yeah, and then, but the thing is that Rachaad White came out and said that the Vikings defensive adjustments were leaked, and Baker was taking advantage of that.
Interesting.
So I don't know if you saw that or not.
No, I didn't.
But Baker literally said that he got like some of the Vikings defensive like switches and audibles and stuff, and he was taking advantage of it. So I don't know if Jalen Hurts is gonna catch on to those and have a good week. So I didn't say him. But with Brian Flores as their new defensive coordinator, the Vikings defense actually looked pretty good, like better than last year, even though their plays were leaked. But I'm assuming the Vikings know about this and they're going to change their play calls accordingly. So the Eagles, the Eagles are going to heavily lock in on Justin Jefferson. I think they're really going to just double, triple team him every time, like every single play. Which I mean, I don't blame him for. He's top 3 receiver in the NFL. Some say he's number 1. So I think it's going to give Jordan Addison more opportunities.
Yeah, and that makes sense, and we kind of saw that last week as well with, Jordan getting open for that touchdown, and then Kirk kind of missed him on an open touchdown as well. So, I mean, in reality, he could have 2 touchdowns for this week, and I think that what you're saying about how they have to focus on these other wide receivers, leaving Addison to kind of work one-on-one with people, and he seemed to have done the job last week, so I don't see why he wouldn't this week.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a pretty good week.
Yeah, so I like that, and I'm excited. I think that's a good Thursday night matchup game, to be honest. Because I know the Vikings are definitely looking to prove people wrong after losing to the Buccaneers, and I know the Eagles, after kind of having a close game against the Patriots, are probably trying to do the same. So that's going to be sweet, and I agree. If I had Jordan Addison in the league, I'd put him in right now.
Yeah, exactly.
He proved it to me.
I'm starting him.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Who do you got for the Ravens and Bengals?
Yep, so onto the Sunday slate, 1 p.m. This one's going to be easy. It's Joey B. We're not worried about it. Joe Burrow's record against the Browns is like something just like... It's one of those weird things.
I think he was like 1-6.
He's 1-6 or 1-5 against them, and I think he has like, I looked it up. I should have wrote down. It was 2 or 3 touchdowns, if I remember correctly. Like very, very low numbers in those games, and the offensive output is low in general. So I think that for whatever reason, the Browns just have Joe Burrow's number. Maybe it's Myles Garrett. It might be a combination of things, but I don't think Joe Burrow is bad. I think the Ravens' defense is pretty good in general, but their secondary is one of their weaknesses, still waiting to get some guys back from injury. And then I believe that their safety, Marcus May, is also not playing this week. I haven't gotten a total answer on that yet, but it seemed like the injury was pretty serious and it's going to be like multiple weeks. So if that's the case as well, I think that he's going to be doing just fine.
I thought Marcus May was on the Saints.
Marcus Williams?
Yeah, Marcus Williams.
Sorry.
There you go. I was like, huh?
Yeah, okay.
Marcus Williams.
But so I don't think he's playing in this one, so a banged-up secondary gets more banged up. I know Joe Burrow has been seeing all of this stuff. I mean, he didn't even throw for 100 yards last week.
Yeah, it was...
I do not see that happening again. I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's going to have a good week this week.
We'll see.
How you feel about that? Do you think the calf might be bothering him?
I think the calf is lingering, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked bad. I know the weather was bad last week for that game, so... I mean, hopefully the weather's better, but he looked bad.
He did look very, very bad.
Like, how do you give T. Higgins 8 targets and he has 0 catches?
Right.
Like, that's
a
problem.
That's another thing, too, where I think it might just be, like, the Browns' defense doing their thing. And that repeated history of that happening multiple times throughout Joe Burrow's career is kind of what's leading me to believe that I think he'll be okay. Yeah. So we could be wrong, and that's what we're here for.
Denzel Ward did look really good, so that's the thing, too.
And the defense in general on the Browns looked way better with their new defensive coordinator. Is it Jeff Schwartz? Or Jim Schwartz?
I don't remember.
Schwartz. I know he's a good defender, defensive coordinator, and they looked like, I mean, it's basically the same unit, but they looked infinitely better last week. So I think that it's probably just a combo of those two things, and I'm hoping that Joe B's going to bounce back.
Yeah, and I think Marlon Humphrey's still out. So
yes, I do believe that is the case.
Too.
And so already banged up secondary, lost one of their safeties again. He might play this Sunday, so I could be wrong. We are recording this on Wednesday. So we don't 100% know with all this injury stuff, but I mean, if he's out as well, I think that's going to be a good matchup for him.
All right, and then we'll move on to the Seahawks and the Lions. This week I got Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know it's not a very spicy pick. You're probably starting him no matter what. But last week he had 6 catches on 9 targets for 71 yards and a touchdown. Going into this season, I thought the Seattle defense was going to really be good, especially their secondary with taking Witherspoon, Jamal Adams coming back. But unfortunately, those 2 guys are probably still going to miss this next game. Jamal Adams is still not practicing, but Devon Witherspoon should be back. I think he was back in practice today.
Okay.
So we'll see if he makes his debut this week.
Yeah. Could have a setback. Could be ramping up.
Yeah, it could be 50-50 for now. Hopefully he gets a full practice in today. I'll have to go back and look at that. But they looked like they really needed some help. I mean, Tariq Woolen was pretty much alone out there.
Yep.
And I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is definitely going to take advantage of this banged-up secondary and is going to have a pretty big week.
No, I could 100% see that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the most consistent wide receivers in general. Goff loves to feed him. And, yeah, another thing, too, with Seattle is their pass rush last week against the Rams O-line that is very middle of the pack had no pressure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if Goff is sitting back there throwing dimes, it's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah.
So, if they can't find a way to rush the passer, I definitely could see Amon-Ra being, like, kind of player that's going to win you the week. Like you said, you're probably never going to sit him. Yeah. But in particular, I think this is a good matchup, and I think that highlighting him makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I especially think so because if the Seahawks have, I think they're going to come back from last week. They had a pretty poor performance last week. So I think that it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think that Amon-Ra St. Brown, 9 targets last week. I bet he gets at least 10 this week.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. And also one thing I want to mention, too, I did say start Geno Smith last week. It was okay. His tackles are both injured. Yeah. Right now, Abe Lucas was placed on IR a couple hours ago, so he's going to be gone at least 4 weeks. And we haven't heard anything about Charles Cross. So if this trend continues and Seattle is going into Sunday without their starting tackles, I would say fade most of the Seahawks offense in general.
Most of them.
I mean, it's tough to run an offense in the NFL with 2 starting tackles missing.
It's true. And the Lions defense looked pretty good against the Chiefs,
They did. They looked very improved.
Yeah.
And so, that could be a one-time thing. We know the Chiefs had, 6 drops or something like that? So
it felt like more than
it
felt like every
feel
play.
Like more, yeah. So that could also be a factor in there, but I do definitely think that the Lions have improved a little bit. So, but no, that makes sense. Amon-Ra St. Brown, great player. And on to another 1 o'clock game. We got the Colts versus the Texans. One of hopefully many battles between the 2 rookie QBs, Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud. And for this one, I am saying start Pittman. He surprised me last week with that touchdown. He looked really explosive on it, kind of getting a wide receiver screen and then taking it 40, 45 yards to the house. And so the Texan secondary is getting nicer, I think.
Yeah.
They definitely are improving. I don't think that their defense is an absolute shell of a football team or anything like that anymore, but I still don't think that they have the talent level to take over a game, and Anthony Richardson kind of impressed me a little bit last week with his efficiency.
He did look pretty good.
And he targeted Michael Pittman a lot. Also, Michael Pittman has a touchdown in the last 2 meetings with the Texans, so I feel like that trend will continue.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's touchdown bet of the week, maybe?
Yeah.
Anytime touchdown score, Michael Pittman Jr.?
Yeah, I think that's 10th. I would bet my car on that.
There it is again. What did you bet your car on last week?
We need to figure that out, actually. Yeah, we need to check. All right, we're going to fact check that.
We're going to see if Austin still has his car or not.
Yeah, exactly. I might be taking the bus to the next podcast recording. But, no, I actually wouldn't bet my car on that, but I would 100% start Pittman this week.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a pretty safe one.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I mean, Michael Pittman Jr. definitely... Is it Junior?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, good. Because I keep thinking of Michael Porter Jr.,
right,
the basketball player.
Yeah.
So
and then Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah, and then Joey Porter Jr. There's just so many juniors. So.
All these famous athletes keep having kids, bro.
But yeah, I think that he'll have a pretty good week. He definitely impressed me last week, and should probably have a pretty good week against the Texans, especially if you're saying that he scored a touchdown in the last 2 matchups.
Yep.
So for our next matchup, we got the Bears versus the Bucks. My player to look out for this week is Mike Evans. Nice. Last week, he had 6 catches on 10 targets for 66 yards and a touchdown, which he also garnered 31.3% of target share, which is number 4 in the NFL.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, he was looking really good with Baker. And, I mean, the Bears just made Jordan Love look like prime Aaron Rodgers. Like, Jordan Love was slinging out there. So, and that was without Christian Watson. So, last week, Baker looked phenomenal. Was it because he may or may not have had the Vikings playbook?
That is a factor.
Maybe.
Yeah, after you said that, it's definitely giving me a little suspect.
But I'm willing to bet that Baker is going to have another good week. Maybe he'll get the Bears playbook too. And I think Mike Evans will be the primary benefactor again.
Yeah.
So,
no, that makes sense for sure. I think, at this point, I think Mike Evans is a all-time level talent. He's on trajectory to match Jerry Rice's record of 1,000-yard seasons in a row.
Yeah.
Baker gave him 10 targets. And I think, do the targets count for penalties as well? I don't think so, right? I don't think it's an official stat. I'm pretty sure it's an official stat if there's a penalty that doesn't count. So it might have been even more. But I mean, if you're getting, a third of the passes thrown your way, that's pretty solid. And people can feel however way they want to about Baker. When you have the talent level of Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, I feel like both of them are going to have ability to get open, and they're going to get these massive target shares. They're going to be able to make some plays. So I definitely think Mike Evans is a mainstay in my starting lineup, and I think that this is a really good move to start him this week.
Exactly. We mentioned him last week. Yeah, he was your start last week. Yep. He's my start this week. So he's an all-time great, future Hall of Famer, like you said.
Yep.
And I think that he's quarterback proof. I think he proved it last week. Mm-hmm. I know it's just week 1, so we can't get too overhyped, but I still think that like I said, Baker's gonna have a pretty good week, and I think Mike Evans is gonna be his number 1 target again. So we'll go ahead and move you over to the Chiefs versus the Jags. So,
yep. This one I had trouble with.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to just say Patrick Mahomes. I feel like that's obvious. Didn't want to say T-Law. I feel like that's obvious.
Okay.
Calvin Ridley is one that kind of floated to the top after a good performance last week.
Yeah.
He looked explosive.
And he's easily Trevor Lawrence's number 1 guy.
Right, yeah.
Besides maybe
Zay
Jones.
Feeding him. Yep, Zay Jones. And Christian Kirk kind of falling back into it. So, honestly, this might be a cop-out, but I'm saying start everyone in this matchup.
Okay.
These are 2 mid-defenses. I think they're both kind of right in the middle of the pack. So I feel like any offensive player you have that you're confident in, you want to start them.
Okay.
I would, however, fade the Chiefs wide receivers.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, start everyone?
Yeah, so, if you really, really, really trust Kadarius Toney, the good news is he's healthy.
Yeah. He might be on the field. He'll be at the game.
Yeah. And, I mean, we've seen what he can do fully healthy when he's on his game. And, everybody has bad games. Everybody shits themselves sometimes, especially in the NFL. We have a ton of talent. And so, yeah, I would think you could be very comfortable starting pretty much every offensive player. If you have somebody better than the KC wide receivers, I would start them.
Yeah.
Just have an abundance of caution and wait till you see something else from them. But I really have a hard time believing that. Sky Moore, I think, is horrible. I feel like that's his ceiling.
Yeah,
but I have seen Kadarius Toney. I mean, look at the Super Bowl. Guy basically won them the Super Bowl. I wouldn't say that, but he made some really big plays. He is an explosive player, and he was definitely a factor in them winning the Super Bowl. And I think that, that's something to consider. But yeah, I feel like in general you don't want to fade a lot of people in this matchup because I think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, I mean, I would start Zay Jones over every single Chiefs wide receiver this week for sure. I would start the top 3 Jaguars receivers over any receiver on the Chiefs in fantasy.
I actually agree with that 100% because I feel even Christian Kirk didn't get a ton of targets. I mean, who knows?
The
if he
upside's
can just eat
way
this time.
bigger.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And they have enough, especially with the emergence of Zay Jones, I feel like they have enough wide receivers to kind of just have one of them eat every week, so you just have to make sure that you get the right one.
Right.
Yeah. But that's pretty much all I have to say about that matchup. What's your next game here?
My next game, we got the Packers versus the Falcons.
Okay.
And I wrote my notes before I saw that Aaron Jones is questionable for this week.
Shoot.
But he's still my guy if he does play.
Yeah.
And I was rewatching the Packers highlights today, and he got injured on the touchdown. He started you kind of saw it in his leg, and then he instantly grabbed at it, and I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have this guy as my guy of the week.
Serious.
Yeah, it might be a little more serious, but I mean, when the doctors were massaging his leg or whatever they were doing when he was laying down, he looked at the camera and he gave 2 thumbs up. So he looked good. So
hey,
I don't know what's going on with him, but if he plays, I'm starting him. He would look like, I mean, he was the whole offense. I know that Jordan Love looked really good too, and Romeo Doubs did as well. But I mean, Aaron Jones was a big reason why. I mean, the guy had 9 rushes for 41 yards and a touchdown, but the real work came out of this receiving when he had, I know it was only 2 catches, but 86 yards and a touchdown, and that one was super long.
Explosive.
And that was the one that he got injured on. So he reminded everybody that he deserves to be mentioned in the upper echelon of NFL running backs. And I know what you're thinking, and no, I don't think, I don't know if it is. I don't know if it's serious. I don't know. I wrote this before. Right. I looked at it.
And if it is,
then
obviously don't start anybody with an injury designation if we tell you to start them.
Yeah, obviously if he's out, don't play him.
Yeah.
But, I mean, A.J. Dillon didn't look great. He looked scared running the football, and he just looked awful.
Yeah.
So, obviously this is Aaron Jones' backfield. And if we're being honest, it's his entire offense. It's his whole team.
Yeah.
So, I have him as my starter this week against the Falcons because last week, Miles Sanders ran for 72 yards on 18 carries, but that's Miles Sanders. Aaron Jones is infinitely better than him.
Right.
So, if he can't suit up, then obviously don't expect a big game, but if he can make it into the game, he's going to absolutely take off on the Falcons.
Yeah.
Because I think the Falcons have a pretty good secondary as well. So I think that they're going to rely on Aaron Jones again this week.
Right.
But I still think Jordan Love is going to have a good week as well.
And I do feel like that's kind of their identity as well. Running the football is definitely going to be a big thing this season for them. So that makes a lot of sense. So if Aaron Jones is out, are you thinking about starting A.J. Dillon, or are you just trying to look for other options?
It's tough. I mean, if he's completely out, I'll start A.J. Dillon because, I mean, there's nobody else in the backfield that's going to really, like, scare me away from him, like, getting any opportunities. Like, I don't know who their third string running back even is.
I'm not sure either.
So he'll probably get some carries. Like, A.J. Dillon's not going to take 100% carries, but I would definitely start A.J. Dillon.
Right.
Like, even though he looked bad last week, he would still get the volume to be able to convince me to start him.
Right.
Especially against the Falcons. And I also was going to say Algier and Bijan looked really good last week, so I think they're going to be the next 1-2 punch in the NFL.
Yeah. No, it makes sense for sure because, I mean, Algier went in for 2 touchdowns, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And it looks like
he got 2 and Bijan got 1.
The goal line back more so than anything, but they're still just kind of splitting carries, which makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, I feel like the Packers and the Falcons, this is going to be a very interesting game. It's going to be a lot of running, I feel like.
Yeah, a whole lot of running.
Yeah.
Going to be a quick game.
Most likely, yeah. Just clock constantly ticking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so next one, and this is going to be, there's one more 1 p.m. after this one. We got Raiders versus Bills. So Josh Allen shit himself last week. There's really no other way to say it. Just throw it, like, this is, I know I said literally and I was wrong about Kadarius Toney, but literally if he just, like, threw a check down once on any of those interceptions, we probably would have been in field goal range and won that game.
Yeah.
So if he can quit that, and I believe that he can, because the Jets' defense is also amazing.
Yeah,
you know,
it's really
obviously
good.
the Jets' defense didn't cause him to make 3 literal boneheaded interceptions. Like, that's his fault, 100%. But I still believe in Josh Allen. I'm starting him 100% this week against the Raiders, and I feel like he's going to come out and throw for over 300 yards.
Okay, there we go. Josh Allen comeback game, baby. I want to see it bad.
Yep.
I want to see it real bad.
I'm pretty sure it was last season. They were coming off a rough game, and they went to the Raiders, and I remember Stephon Diggs made this, like, insane catch over a Raiders cornerback. And, like, as soon as that happened, the Bills really got on a nice offensive streak. The Raiders' defense is better. It's definitely better. Their defensive line especially, and that is something that the Bills struggle with because their offensive line is very mid. But I think the mismatches in the secondary and the Bills kind of getting a wake-up call on Monday night will hopefully lead to Josh Allen going absolutely bonkers on Sunday. And I think Stephon Diggs is, going to be a part of that as well, because if Josh Allen has a good game, most of the time so does Diggs.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe Davis was like the number 4 target on the Bills last week. It was Diggs, then Kincaid, then James Cook, then Gabe Davis. So if Josh Allen's eating, then Stephon Diggs is eating too.
Right.
Like
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely hyped for that game. I think. What do you think? What's your spread on that game? Do you think the Raiders are gonna do very well against the Bills defense?
I don't really know how to feel about the Raiders, honestly.
They're weird.
Yeah, and that matchup against the Broncos doesn't really prove anything to me because, I mean, I'm pretty sure if the Broncos made the extra point, then we have no idea who wins this one. You know? So the Raiders are just very strange. They have talent in places. They're lacking depth and talent in others. I'm not sure what the spread is right now, but I would assume it. I mean,
it has to be like
if it's
10,
more than a touchdown. You think it'd be 10? I feel like if it's more than a touchdown, that's wrong.
I think because Jacoby Myers might miss it with the concussion.
Yeah, that is true.
So
he was snapping last week.
Yeah, he was absolutely snapping.
He also looked really rough on the ground. At the end of that. That was a scary.
That's why I think he's going to be out this week. I would definitely take the caution.
Right.
Especially after a week like that. You don't need him to rush back from a concussion injury.
Exactly. It's week 2. But yeah, I mean, Bills by a million every time. But in general, if this one is more than a touchdown, I probably wouldn't touch the spread.
Right.
I feel like until further notice, we know what the Bills are capable of, but until they do it, it's all just hype. It's all just speculation. So I think that we just got to leave that one as it is. All
right. Well, we'll move on to the last 1:00 game of the week. We got the Chargers versus the Titans, and I got a guy that kind of had a stinker game last week, DeAndre Hopkins. Elite wide receiver, having a stinker game. It's weird to see
him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's weird to see. I mean, Ryan Tannehill just was in shambles, but I think the Saints defense is a lot better than people give them credit for. And they have a much better defense than the Chargers, who Ryan Tannehill and DeAndre Hopkins are coming into town to see. Or actually, it's going to be in Tennessee, so they're going to be back home in Tennessee, in Nashville. So DeAndre Hopkins didn't have a great game due to Tannehill looking like a complete stinker, but he still managed to have almost a 40% target share. He had 7 catches on 13 targets for 65 yards. So he still had 13 targets, even though Tannehill threw 3 interceptions. So, 40% target share is a lot. It was the number 2 in the NFL last week, behind only Puka Nacua, who's the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Upcoming GOAT.
Yeah, upcoming GOAT. So, I mean, he literally broke the record. We don't have to talk about him right now. Listen, we don't have to talk about him right now.
We'll wait till we get to the Rams.
Yeah, we'll wait. But for now, DeAndre Hopkins, he's going to absolutely burn the Chargers, I think. I think that the Titans are going to have a real comeback game. Did they lose last week? Who did they play?
Yeah,
the Saints. Yeah, they lost to the Saints.
Or the Titans. Yeah. The Titans lost to the Saints.
Yeah, they lost to the Saints. So I'm expecting D-Hawk to get back on track this week against a Chargers defense that just allowed Tua to throw for 466 yards and 3 touchdowns. That game was massacre. So, or not a massacre really. It was a
shootout.
Yeah, it was a shootout.
The Chargers secondary is just rough, man. And they try and they invest all these pieces into it and it just never works.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, unless Tannehill is truly, truly just cooked to a crisp, I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to, if this is his floor, what's the ceiling? And it's probably pretty high. I think you can tell that those guys have a lot of trust in each other. And I know that Tannehill was struggling behind the Saints pass rush, but if you're getting that many targets, you got to be doing something fantasy-wise, And
that's what I'm saying, too, is that Tannehill was getting a lot of pressure last week against the Saints, but I saw a funny stat today that the Chargers actually had 0 sacks against Tua last week.
Wow.
And did Teron Armstead even play?
I believe he did,
okay,
yeah.
he did play.
But still.
You have Joey Bosa, and they still have Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
So how do you get 0 sacks against Tua, who's... They threw the ball. I don't remember how many times they threw the ball, but obviously a lot.
35 plus had to be. Yeah,
and they didn't get a single sack. So that's why I'm thinking that the Titans have a real bounce back week on offense this week, especially with. It has to start with D-Hop.
Mm-hmm. So. And I would think too, since the Chargers do struggle stopping the run, getting Derrick Henry going will help the passing attack, which the Saints were very focused on stopping the run last week. So
for sure,
that makes sense. Yeah, I think, and that's somebody who you could kind of look at the stats and not get all this kind of deep diving in and be like. Maybe we want to throw another wide receiver in, but, if they're targeting that much, he is going to eat one day.
It's DeAndre Hopkins, right. Bro. We can't just forget who he is.
Exactly. So, all right, that makes sense. That's it for the 1 o'clock. So, on to 4:05. We got the 49ers and the Rams. Gotta shout out your boy, Puka.
My guy.
Hashtag Jared New. However... This is not going to be against Puka, for example, but my sit for this one is to sit Matthew Stafford. Okay. And this is probably people might be curious about that, considering he just came off of a 300-plus yard game with 1 touchdown, I think, because they ran the other ones. He might have had no touchdowns, actually. I remember there were a lot of goal line running on that. But in general, like I said earlier in this podcast, the Seahawks could not get any pressure on him. So he was just sitting back there darting. And I think if Matthew Stafford can do that, he still has the capability of being an excellent quarterback in the NFL. But I do not think he's going to do that against the 49ers.
Yeah, the 49ers defense is tough.
Right, their defensive line is crazy. And I don't think that there's going to be a lot of time for Matthew Stafford to wait for these receivers to kind of get open and put work in there. So I'm 100% sitting Matthew Stafford in this matchup.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
He looked really good last week, but so did the 49ers. So.
Exactly. And, not to try to... We don't want to discount Matthew Stafford, but I definitely think that the Seahawks defense was worse than he was good, if that makes sense. Other than Tariq Woolen, it basically looked like they weren't even out there playing defense.
Exactly.
He was just sitting in the pocket waiting for somebody to break open, throwing a dart to him, and then they gained 10 yards after that.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen with the Niners. So Stafford could definitely still have a serviceable game. But if you have another quarterback you can put it over him, I think that's going to be the move for this week.
That makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah.
So for our next matchup, we have kind of a boring game, Giants versus the Cardinals. Yeah. I'm going to say that every team that plays the Cardinals is going to be a boring game all season because they're boring to watch. Mm-hmm. But I got a guy that had a pretty bad week last week, Daniel Jones, as my player of the week. Last week, he was 15 of 28 for 104. He had 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and he had 13 carries for only 43 yards, which is not very good. 43 yards is good for a quarterback rushing, but on 13 carries, that's not a lot. So I know we all saw that game against the Cowboys. It was ugly. It pains me to say this, but They unfortunately might have the best defense in the NFL.
It's easily top 3 if it's not the best.
Unfortunately, I hate to admit it, but the Cowboys look legit. I think that they could actually make a pretty good run at the Super Bowl if they all stay healthy. Because I mean, there's no denying it's a 40-0 blowout. Like, it was an absolute blowout. Yeah. I didn't even think the starters were going to play in the second half.
Right.
But the Commanders didn't look too great against the Cardinals last week. But I'm expecting Daniel Jones and the Giants to bounce back tremendously this week against the potential future home of Caleb Williams. But don't expect high passing numbers because I think that, like I said, it might be a blowout for the Giants' favor this time.
Yeah.
But definitely expect Daniel Jones to run all over this defense. If he has 13 carries again, I guarantee he'll have over 43 yards. And I just don't hate on Daniel Jones because he had the worst game of his entire career. That was literally he only threw for less than that yardage. I think, 104 yards. He only threw worse than that in one game in his career, and he didn't even play the whole game.
Well, I hope so.
Well, yeah. But it was the worst. All I'm saying is that was the worst game of his career, and now people are so low on him,
right?
Because oh my god, the Giants look so bad.
Right.
Well, no, the Cowboys just looked absolutely insane. Mm-hmm. So the other thing too is that game was super rainy,
right? So
it was kind of hard to. I mean, no one wants to play in the rain, bro. It sucks. Right. Mm-hmm. So, but luckily this game is going to be in Arizona, and the Cardinals have a retractable roof stadium, so no rain. I expect big things out of Daniel Jones this week.
Okay, that makes sense. I am not a Daniel Jones fan in general. Been known. I think he's mid, but the rushing upside is out of control, and I agree against a very poor Cardinals defense. I have a feeling that he's going to be a good start this week. Just don't trade a bunch of resources for him.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's gonna throw for 300, but I am saying he'll rush for over 50.
Okay. So that makes sense.
That.
And possibly a touchdown too, which would be major upside.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. And the only thing too, also with Daniel Jones is so he looked good during that stretch last year, right? And then he looked good against the Vikings and the defense. But his last 2 games were against division opponents who are very good teams, and he got blown the fuck out of both of them. Yeah. So it's tough, but
he's not.
The Cardinals are not. Yeah, they're not an opponent or a very good team. So I definitely see this happening, and especially the rushing upside. I think that's a good move.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Cowboys, next matchup we have is Jets and Cowboys.
That's going to be a spicy game.
I think to a degree.
Wait, there's someone that's not
hold
there
on,
anymore.
Hold on. Could it be somebody who had a major injury? So, yeah. Jets, nobody wants to watch them for the rest of the season. It's going to be 30-plus carries and Zach Wilson pissing himself in the backfield.
Dude, MILFs are going to love watching.
Yeah, exactly. And
moms.
So is Zach Wilson.
Hot moms are tuning into Jets games.
So, yeah, this is 2 sits in a row, but I think this one's pretty obvious. Sit all the Jets players, even the running backs.
You sitting Garrett Wilson?
I am sitting every Jets player in this matchup. I think Zach Wilson is going to get blown out. I think that the Cowboys are going to stack the box every single play. They're going to blitz the shit out of him, unlike the Bills did for whatever reason. They just sat back with coverage and put 4 people in. The Cowboys don't play defense that way. They're going to be really aggressive, and Zach Wilson struggles under pressure. He loves running 20 yards back and all this stuff. In my opinion, if Garrett Wilson's a good example of somebody who, don't put, Christian Kirk in over Garrett Wilson or something like that, even though I'm big on Christian Kirk to a degree. Yeah. I feel like Garrett Wilson's upside is always going to be higher in that point. Okay. But a player like Zay Jones, for example, or Jacoby Myers if he was healthy, I'd put him in over Garrett Wilson in this.
Really?
For this matchup, 100%.
You'd start Zay Jones against the Chiefs, but you wouldn't start Christian Kirk?
I'd try. No, that's what I'm yeah, I guess I would, dude. Honestly, this matchup scares the hell out of me because I feel like the Jets looked overmatched from the Bills and the Cowboys defense. Maybe the Bills have a top 8, top 7, possibly top 5 defense, maybe, but the Cowboys are minimum top 3, I think, as far as the talent that they have on their defense. So I think I'm fading all those guys.
All right, are you starting Jordan Addison or are you starting Garrett Wilson?
I'm starting Jordan Addison this week.
Okay, there we go.
Yep, this week, 100%.
Cowboys they look that good, dude. Right. They shut them out.
And Garrett Wilson is him, but Zach Wilson is not.
Yeah.
And I think that this game is just going to be, out of reach quickly, and that's not going to lead to a lot of points for Jets players.
All right. Yeah, I'm big on that. I mean, like I said, I think the Cowboys have a real good shot at the Super Bowl this year if they can all stay healthy.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really trust Breece Hall. I know that he had that one big run, but he didn't even house it. So
yep. No, you could tell he's not 100% yet.
Yeah.
But their running back duo is 100% scary.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned earlier, I mean, the Cowboys can just stack the box.
Yeah.
Literally beg Zach Wilson to try to make plays because he won't.
Yeah,
and,
he will not.
You know, I'm pretty out on him. He could be something in the future, but I really, really doubt that.
No, we'll just stand on it. We'll stand on it. He's ass.
It's trash.
He's
Trash.
terrible.
Gonna get trashed. Their team's trash.
Speaking of more trash right here, this is the most boring matchup of the week. I'd rather watch Giants versus Cardinals. They just put all of the worst games into the 4:00 window, and then they'll add like one good one. Like the Jets versus Cowboys is like the one good one,
and it's bad because Aaron Rodgers is not.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers isn't even playing. Right. So like this was supposed to be the only good one.
Man.
I guess the Niners and Rams will be pretty good too, especially if Matt
be.
Stafford looks as good as last week. But
yeah.
Last game of the window, we got Commanders versus Broncos. It's ugly, dude. It's ugly. You don't want to start anybody here. Like the Commanders didn't look good last week against the freaking Cardinals, and then the Broncos didn't look that great against the Raiders.
Right. They looked better, but like, congrats.
Yeah. Congrats for looking better than last year. Like a little bit too.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Not even that much. But my player, I'm not necessarily maybe. I probably am starting him in a couple leagues. But, I mean, obviously, if you have elite guys, you're starting him over. But I'm saying Adam Troutman. He's my ad. He is my ad of the week besides Puka Nacua, but I have him in all my fantasy teams. I've had him for months. So.
Yeah, you picked him in the last round in all the leagues, probably.
Yeah, so I don't consider him my biggest ad. My biggest ad is Adam Troutman in all my leagues. Last week, he caught 5 catches on all 5 of his targets. Wow. He had 34 yards, which obviously isn't great, but that's because he's just not a great athlete.
Right. And is he on the Broncos or the Commanders?
He's on the Broncos.
Okay, cool.
Because he was on the Saints, and Sean Payton traded for him.
Right, yep, okay.
Sean Payton's a freaking idiot. This guy's not that good, but the problem is that he's going to be so good now since Greg Dulcich is probably going to be headed to IR with a hamstring injury that limited... he was out 7 games last year because of the same hamstring. So... he's probably going to be out for my projection is at least a month. But yeah, this game sucks. The Commanders have a 3 running back committee. Yep. Like they just can't decide on which one to start or which one to use. It's probably Brian Robinson, but you're not really excited to start Brian Robinson ever. Jerry Jeudy is probably going to miss the game. Greg Dulcich, like I said, probably going to hit IR. Sam Howell isn't that good. Russell Wilson isn't that good. So the only value in this game is Adam Troutman at this point.
Which is just unbelievable to think about.
Yeah, it really is unbelievable to think about. I guess you could start Cortland Sutton too. He looked... did we even talk about him last week? Because he kind of looked... he kind of looked good with Jerry Jeudy out. I mean, he didn't look like the best receiver in the NFL, but he had some value for sure.
Okay.
But Sean Payton loves featuring tight ends. I mean, we saw it with Jimmy Graham, and he's not a great athlete, but
and in general, I feel like with the tight end position, if you don't have one of the elite guys, or maybe you do have one of the elite guys and they're injured right now, this is huge for you. You really want to get those 6, 7, 8 points tight ends. If they get a touchdown, even better. Like Hayden Hurst last week, I think ended up with 13 points off that touchdown.
Yeah, so I think he had more, bro.
It might have been more. In a PPR league, I guarantee it was more. I think I have him in the half PPR one.
Okay.
And with a touchdown, I think it was 12.7 if I remember correctly.
There you go.
Like, that's insane.
That's huge.
That's insane value out of a tight end.
He's on most people's like waiver wire.
Yeah.
So 100%. I mean, depending on how deep your league is, what kind of league you're in.
Exactly. And same with Troutman. So at this point, if you are looking at the tight end waiver wire, there's nothing available. I think that's a safe ad to get those guaranteed points because there's nothing worse than getting the tight end that drops a big fat 0 on your team.
Yeah,
that shit feels terrible.
I'm starting. I mean, like I said, I'm not starting him in a bunch of leagues because I have Hawkinson and Evan Ingram, people like that. But if I have like a guy like Mark Andrews coming back from injury and I'm kind of sus on him, I might start Adam Troutman this week over a guy like Mark Andrews. But I mean, who do the Ravens even play this week?
Bengals.
Oh, that's right, the Bengals. Yeah. I mean, I would still start Adam Troutman over him, which is kind of spicy.
Right.
But with him coming, I get scared with the injury, so I'm starting him over any tight end that was out. Not Kelsey. I'm starting Kelsey over him, but that's about it.
There's no way, bro.
I start Kelsey no matter what.
Yeah.
Even if he's injured.
Exactly. Yeah. Put the 0 in out of respect.
I started him last week.
Out of respect.
Yeah. But,
all right, so on to the night game. This one should be pretty spicy. We got the Dolphins and the Patriots at 8:20.
Yeah.
And this one is going to seem maybe a little out there considering how good the Patriots defense looked last week, but I am hammering the start for Raheem Mostert, and let me tell you why.
Mostert again, baby.
Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Last time the Dolphins and the Patriots played, Raheem Mostert got 8 targets out of the backfield.
There it is.
And guess how many catches he had?
8.
8 catches,
baby,
and a
baby.
reception touchdown. So I feel like, obviously game plans can change, but in general, it seems like they want to work Mostert out of the backfield against this Patriots defense. I see them doing it again. Mostert got in the end zone last week. I'm expecting them to do it again. Put the car on it, baby.
Put the car on it. Put the car on it. Bet the car. Bet the house. Bet the kids.
Bet the clothes on your back. Mostert is.
What's the bet actually? Is it yards, touchdown?
3.5 targets.
3.5 targets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait, that's not that much though.
6.5 targets. Nah, that can't happen.
That's a lot.
3.5 receptions, baby. He's good for it.
Okay.
He's good for it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I could definitely see it against the Patriots.
Yep.
Division rival, in the prime time. So
yeah.
Yeah,
these are teams that are familiar with each other, and history tends to repeat themselves with division rivals, so I feel like he's going to get a lot of work out of the backfield.
Yeah, and he's their number one guy. So.
Right, exactly. There's no other option. I know Achane was playing, but he didn't really look great, right?
I think he was active, but I don't even know if he played.
Right, yeah, he might have maybe got a couple carries.
Salvin Ahmed got some.
Okay.
Salvin Ahmed is the guy that got... He got into a little bit of his workload, but I mean, like I said, Raheem Mostert is not going to take 100% of the carries.
No,
ever.
You can't. Yeah, and
no running back.
Mike McDaniel knows that. He had him with the Niners as well, so I'm sure he's fully aware of that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about that one. The Patriots really impressed me with their offense, and I'm thinking maybe some of their wide receivers and running backs would make sense to start here. I wouldn't be fading anybody in this particular matchup, except for maybe, you start Tua 100%.
Yeah,
I know the Patriots defense is solid and they looked really, really good. But I think you got to start Tua, and I think Mostert's going to be getting that work out of the backfield. It's going to be nice.
Yeah, you start everyone on the Dolphins. I saw Jalen Waddle pop up on the injury report today. I didn't really look into it. I think he'll probably be okay.
Yeah, it could just be a rest day thing.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how that plays out rest of the week. But I mean, if he doesn't play, then you're obviously starting Tyreek Hill no matter what.
Yes.
So, but I mean, if he doesn't play, I could definitely see a sneaky add-in for Braxton Berrios. Sneaky pickup.
And is River Craycraft a wide receiver, or is he a tight end?
I think he's listed as a wide receiver.
Oh, okay. If they had him as a tight end, I would have added that to the Troutman thing. He got a lot of work last week.
But the tight end on the Dolphins, Durham Smythe, actually did have some value out of him last week. I mean, he was like 2% owned on Sleeper, and I have him in Scott Fishbowl, so
there you go.
I didn't start him, but
yeah,
whatever.
Of course, yeah, I wouldn't either. But hey, he's there. He's ready to go.
He's valuable.
Yep.
So we'll go into the Monday games. We got 2 this week.
Yep, which is sweet.
Which is super sweet. For my last guy that I have, I know the last couple guys didn't really have great weeks last week, so I got another guy that didn't have a great week last week, and he's going to bounce back this week. My guy that I actually picked last week as well, Jamal Williams on the Saints. Last week he had 18 carries for 45 yards, 0 touchdowns, and those numbers are bad. 18 carries for 45 yards, that's ugly. That was less than 3 yards. That is less than 3 yards a carry.
Yeah, that's actually really rough.
So, but he had 87% opportunity share. And, I mean, listen, last week was really disappointing, but if you look at the tape, you'll see that the run blocking was actually the reason why, he had those numbers. His offensive line was terrible for run blocking. It just looked absolutely awful. So, luckily for him, he gets to match up against the team that just made Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson look like the best running back tandem in the entire NFL, which we said earlier they might be.
Could be.
So with Alvin Kamara still suspended and Kendre Miller just constantly dealing with an injury, expect Jamal Williams to have that breakout game that we all expected last week. And I say this because according to BetGMG, or MGM, BetMGM, BetMGM said that Jamal Williams was the most bet touchdown scorer across the entire NFL last week. So
that's crazy.
And he didn't score one. No. So that sucked because I even bet that too.
Damn.
I bet a little bit on it. I was Jamal Williams will score. He's the only running back there.
He's good for
but I'm there for it this week. I'm putting the car on it this week.
Yeah.
I'm putting the car on it.
It's a car on Jamal Williams, baby.
Anytime touchdown this week against the Panthers.
Okay. I love
100%.
That.
Monday night.
That. Yeah. Monday at probably 7:45 is when he's crossing the goal line.
He'll already have 2 by then.
That would be nuts. Chill. That would be nuts.
But he will score that game.
Yeah, but no, that definitely makes sense. The Panthers defense looked fine. So I feel like and the Titans' defense looked good. That is another thing, too, that we didn't mention talking about the Titans because it's not super fantasy relevant.
Yeah.
Their defense was shredding, dude. So
yeah.
I feel like going against a much lesser opponent, another division opponent as well, it's probably going to help him out a lot.
Yeah, I think that I'm telling you, dude.
Yeah.
Bet the car.
Makes sense. Bet that car.
Bet that car, right. Jamal Williams. Anytime touchdown.
All right.
This week.
I love it. All right, last game, also Monday night, Browns versus your Steelers. Now, who's going to win this game?
Steelers.
That's a good question. Probably Steelers. That's my thought.
We'll
but who are we going to start? David Njoku. And let me tell you why. In the last 3 meetings against the Steelers, David Njoku has at least 4 catches and a touchdown.
I don't like that.
That's going to happen again.
I don't like it.
Njoku is going to eat. And when you really think about it, the Steelers' defense is so good. But, like, I can't and maybe I'm wrong. You got to let me know if I'm wrong. Do they have a linebacker that matches up well against tight ends? Because I feel like that's really their only weakness.
We don't have a linebacker that's very good, bro. I mean, unless you're saying like T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, but those are like edge rushers.
Exactly, yeah. Those are the 3-4 linebackers.
But like coverage linebackers,
right? No, don't have that guy. And I have noticed that whenever I watch the Steelers play, the tight ends are normally just eating up the middle. And I think David Njoku is talented. I think Deshaun Watson likes to feed him. So I'm starting Njoku all day long in this one.
The other thing too is that we have Minka at safety, obviously, but he kind of plays like more back.
Right.
And then our strong safety is just an absolute mess. DeMonte KZ looked absolutely terrible last week, and Keanu Neal doesn't look much better. So,
jeez.
And
was against Kittle though, to be fair.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying like our defense is not as good as last year. Unfortunately, we didn't do anything to replace Terrell Edmonds. Like we just thought signing Keanu Neal would fix everything, and KZ will give him a bigger opportunity. Like no, he sucks. Yeah. But Cam Hayward is also injured. So
shoot,
there goes another. Yep,
God,
there goes him.
Dang, that's rough.
So that sucks.
That is a huge factor.
Yeah.
In this matchup.
And then obviously Deontay's out too. He'll probably be out for at least a month, and Freiermuth is questionable. So it's going great in Pittsburgh. It's going just as planned.
Maybe the Browns will end the week alone at the top of the AFC North.
Dude, actually, the whole AFC North plays each other this week. I didn't notice that.
So that definitely could be if they're 2-0. And the Ravens win, or the Bengals win, excuse me, then they'll be sitting atop Kings of the North, Browns. Which is just sickening to say.
Dude, it made my stomach hurt. I think the Bengals will beat the Ravens, so that'll actually be pretty good.
No, I think that's a possibility.
And then if the Steelers beat the Browns, then everyone's 1-1.
Yeah, that would actually be nuts. I'm rooting for chaos in that one.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. I'm manifesting it.
That would
whole
be
division
sick.
1-1.
That would be crazy, honestly.
But I don't know. I think you also could have put Nick Chubb in here. Like I said, Cam Hayward's injured, so I think Nick Chubb has another 100-yard game.
Yeah, and Nick Chubb, I hate to put the stars in here. I feel like we have to sometimes when I feel like the matchup's really
I put him on St. Brown.
Yeah, exactly. But I think his matchup is really good at this point. I feel like Nick Chubb's matchup here is good, but it's not really good. So
I don't know, dude. I think it is really good. I think he's gonna get over 100 yards on us easily, bro.
Okay.
Well, I mean, look what Christian McCaffrey did last week, bro.
It's true.
He was like the number 1 running back, and bro, it's just so sad,
yeah,
dude.
It's rough.
We suck.
It's rough for the Steelers right now. It's
like
real rough.
The bad part is that we're still gonna end like 9-8.
Yep.
But I hate it, bro. Yeah. It's impressive. Like, don't get me wrong, it's impressive, Mike Tomlin. But like, bro, just please go get a top 10 pick. Like, this is the year to do it.
Yeah.
Like, this is the year, bro. Just,
We'll see. I mean, if Kenny Pickett ends up falling out, they might end up having a bunch of losses. But there's a lot of Kenny Pickett haters. I'm not one of them particularly. I definitely think that last week was a lot to do with the 49ers.
I do too.
And, not so much to do with Pickett. Now, the jury's still out on him. He could end up being not at that level. But I don't think last week is a fair assessment for him.
No.
They kind of just got blown the fuck out.
Yeah, I don't either. And I actually saw a hit today that it happened, I think it was in the first 5 minutes of the game. Mm-hmm. Nick Bosa knocked Kenny Pickett to the ground, after a throw, and he hit his head. It looked pretty bad. So they're saying that that's what whole Steelers Twitter is saying. They're like, oh well,
it can't be him.
He's not the same. Yeah. He's not the same because he hit his head on the ground, and the concussions from last year, it looks worrisome, and that's why he had a bad game. Maybe, maybe not. It did look kind of bad. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I think that a bunch of it was because the Niners are just so good.
Right.
But my concern is, like I said, all the injuries, like Deontay Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know Pat Freiermuth when he's going to be healthy.
Right. I mean, those are
Cam Hayward as well.
2 of the top 3 pass catchers.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So that's why I always kind of thought you were going to go with Pickens here, because if Deontay's out, Freiermuth is out.
Yeah.
Those are literally our top 2 pass catchers.
They're
so
gonna feed him.
It's got to be Pickens, and then I think even Calvin Austin will step up.
I hope so.
And Allen Robinson had a pretty good week too, actually.
Yes, I actually did see that too. He's high on the waiver list right now on Sleeper.
Yeah.
In redrafts particularly. So.
No, he looked pretty good. And I mean, if Deontay is going to be out for over a month.
Yeah,
like, there's no
if.
if.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely he's done for a little bit. So I think Allen Robinson will step up as well. And I do expect Calvin Austin one of these weeks he's going to break one. So
yeah.
You're never going to know when to start him. It's going to be hit or miss, but. 1 week it will hit, and you're going to be pretty happy.
Yeah, and this might be the one because of the depleted receiving group right there. So
I mean, if you have a bunch of injured receivers, like who got injured? I mean, Deontay, Christian Watson. We don't know if he's going to be back.
Right.
Jacoby. I mean, you probably weren't really. Hopefully, you weren't banking on starting Jacoby Myers every week. But if you have one of these injured receivers and you need somebody to just plug in, and you're in like a 16-man league or something, dude, start Calvin Austin. Why not?
Yeah,
why not? That's my piece of advice.
Exactly. God, 16-man league, dude. Those teams would be trash.
As I'm saying, like, hey, if you're in hell, start Calvin Austin.
Need those 5 points.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, that's all I got to say about this. I think we're all set.
All right.
Yeah.
Pretty good episode.
Go Bills. Go Steelers. Every other team die.
Die. Burn in hell.